So as you can see here, the needs of independent and small companies are very different from corporate. Like the migration risk to Godot is very expensive if you're a large company. You need to train the people, you need to make sure it works, like it may not do what you want. Bigger companies have multi-million investment in games, and they really need to make sure that if that money is not lost like dealing with the technology. The faster, reliable the support, the better. You can, if you're a company, just go open a ticket in Godot or do a proposal. The company is not going to be treated different to any of you. Like Godot project is completely open, like nobody has like a crown or anything like that. So for a company, it's like very frustrating to just go, a bigger company, it's frustrating go and just deal with the Godot stuff because they have the money, they want to have a better service, they have a bug, they want it fixed, they don't want to wait until somebody in the community fixes it. And they want to have like broad publishing from the moment they launch. If you're a company, you want to go to consoles on day one. If you're an independent developer, generally you prefer to go to Steam first, and if you're successful, you go later to consoles. But the bigger companies, the bigger studios just want to be everywhere on day one. This is one of the biggest differences. So, why is Godot being used now by bigger companies? You probably have seen that the W4 announced a deal with Second Dinner, like we're working with the creators of Marvel Snap on helping them with their next game. Which is probably going to be a bigger IP, but I can't say. So there has been unreliability and uncertainty in the other commercial options. Like other companies, maybe their growth has been exhausted. They reached like the maximum they can get, the maximum revenue they can get, and they have like shareholders, the shareholders of the company, and they want to see like more value getting extracted. So this is a bit uncertain for the companies using it. They clearly are hitting us up. What they charge for the pros has hit a ceiling, and again, shareholder driven. They need to make revenue. They need to get the shares up. And the other thing that is happening that is not their fault, of course, is that now Godot is appearing, and a lot of companies, a lot of people are using Godot, so they are losing market because of Godot. And this is a problem for all the other people using the other technologies because they are losing market to Godot, and this is less revenue projected. So it's kind of like this feedback loop. So we are kind of coming to like unsettle the industry, and this is being a problem for the other companies. Other thing that happened is that open source software is being better understood by the game industry. Is what I was saying before. Like go 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, and if you wanted to publish a game on console, and even if you use MIT license, you probably would get denied because like, oh, this license is like, open source, we don't know what it is, but we don't allow open source. That was very common in some console companies. But now it's very understood. You can publish an engine, and we know that as middleware providers, like commercial, we will guarantee that everything is licensed, that the license is not going to do anything weird, it's not going to force you to open any secret API. And the other thing that happened is that in many companies, many bigger companies, the staff uses Godot, and they are pushing internally for those companies to move to Godot. All these things are happening, and the companies are wanting to move to Godot. And as I said before, like there's this reliability issue that just using stuff that you download from the internet, and you have to handle with the traditional channels. So what is blocking Godot adoption for the bigger companies right now? The first, of course, is console access. Half of the market is consoles. So if you don't have consoles, you're not going to use a game engine that doesn't support consoles. Like for the indies, it's okay to go to Steam, and then you maybe talk to a porting house to port the project if you are successful. But as I said before, for a bigger company, if you want to like launch, they want broad launch support. They want to be in all platforms from day one. So they need proper console support for Godot. So this is one of the things blocking the usage of Godot. The other is, as I said, commercial support. Bigger companies need commercial support. If they have a problem, they need somebody to fix it tomorrow. And they need to not be delayed on their development because they have a lot of people hired. They are having scaling. Just for those not familiar with the game industry, generally the way games are made is they have a pre-production stage that can last many months or even years in the bigger games. But at some point, the companies say, okay, we need to finish the game, and they enter production. They hire a lot of people, subcontractor companies, artists, third parties, outsourcers, and you have this huge amount of people working to make and finish the game. If anything goes wrong there, like you're hiring this amount of people and you're not being able to advance with your game, things get really, really hairy. So companies really need commercial support. The bigger their investment in their game is. The other thing that is blocking is success stories. This kind of catch-22, right? But the thing is that we have been talking to a lot of companies at Gamescom here in Cologne some months ago, and everybody says the same story, like, oh, we want to use Godot, we think it's the future, but we don't want to be the first one to do it. We want to see others being successful first, and then we will be confident that we can go to Godot and publish. So the thing is that bigger companies want to see more success story, and basically the same thing there. They want to see more battle testing, like Godot being used. Like, just I can tell you, we're working on W4 with bigger companies that are using Godot, and they are finding so many issues with the engine because they are pushing the envelope. But the good thing is that they pay us, and we fix everything, and all the fixes that we make go to the Godot engine. So in the end, we're just like a medium to make the bigger companies be able to use the engine, and all the work they do is open sourced. Why? Because one thing that is interesting that I was saying that's coming to the game industry is that these companies are realizing that keeping a private fork of an engine and maintaining it is extremely expensive. So they prefer to donate all their improvements back to the community, which I think is really, really amazing. So how is W4, the company that I created with the other folks, making it happen? We're providing developers with commercial-grade middleware, authorized console ports. This means that the console manufacturers, Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo are going to say, yeah, this is something that we approve as middleware. You can use it, and if you have any problem, go chase that W4 company, and they will fix it, which is something that if you use like community-made ports, you're not going to have, and it's something bigger companies expect to have. We're providing expert technical support to these companies. If you're a larger company and you need support or you have any problem with Godot, and this is like avoiding you to make money with your game, W4 is going to just like fix the problem you have, and then again open a pull request for that to fix it. And finally, contribution to Godot, all the improvements required to make. So W4 has made probably over $2 million in developer time donated to just fixing Godot, and that includes like the new renderer. We donated a Direct 3D12 renderer because this was required for Xbox, but also Windows on ARM. So now, if you have the new Windows on ARM computers, like you can use Godot on theirs because W4 has donated to Godot that support that otherwise would be very, very difficult to make. So literally, like a large part of the budget of W4 is just what clients pay, and everything is just donated back to the engine. There's a huge amount of donation happening. And by the way, there's going to be finally the feature where you can actually embed the game on the editor window, and you can click objects and select them like in other engines. That's always also going to be donated very soon. I think that's one of the most requested features if you see the proposals. So, and to finish, the advantage of open ecosystems. I'm a very big advocate for open ecosystems. Godot could have been a commercial engine. I could have decided let's make a product and sell it. But we all have used open source since the 90s. We use Linux. I don't know what a Mac is. I'm a Linux user, very strong believer in open source. I use Firefox, anything open source. So I really believe in open ecosystems. If you go to enterprise software, like everybody builds up on open source. So why not the game industry, right? So I think it's time to give the game industry the ability to build up on open source. And again, the beautiful thing about open source is that you can be just an individual working in a basement, or you can be a huge company, but with open source, we all work together and we all benefit the same. It's just something that we have at the core. No matter who you are, just contribute and we all benefit. I think that's the most beautiful thing about open source. So, I'm going to pass the mic to Nicola, who is our co-CEO at W4. He will explain you a bit more like why it's a good business to do a couple of things that we're offering.
What a challenge.
Nicola.
Thank you, Juan.
Since I'm not a business person, sorry, goodbye.
That is now a good tip on your side. So thanks a lot for this great intro. I have to tell you, I've been speaking in a lot of stages around the world for other jobs, positions, or businesses, but I'm really emotionally driven by seeing all this crowd with this lighting and being at the Godot event. I want to share with you a couple of anecdotes, just to ice break, let's say. I'm Italian. Well, you can see a bit of highlights about myself. I'm a business guy. I've been about 25 years in business. I'm an entrepreneur. I founded 7 companies, raised close to $50 million from investors around the world, and failed the majority of times. I want to share with you the biggest success that I've been lucky to experience. The biggest success has been my first company, a social entrepreneurship project, a not-for-profit project, a community project. This project I started back in 2006. It was basically a music festival in Italy, in my hometown, to raise money for African kids suffering in 2 very small countries, Togo and Benin. This was a huge project because I started alone, like a solo entrepreneurship project. We ended up in 100 people in the team and 25,000 people in a weekend for audience. This resembles me a lot about Godot, and that's the first takeaway, community. Second takeaway is friendship and human at the center. The reason why I'm here is because of this guy. You probably know him. His name is Fabio. He will follow my contribution here. And the reason why I owe him to be here where I am today is because I hired him in 2010 as developer of my first company. I received the 2 curriculum for an open position. He was one of the 2. And I haven't got money to pay him, so I offered sweat equity. I offered a part of the company. From 2010, we have been sharing the same roof. He has been moving from Italy to Ireland to follow my dream, which eventually became a little bit of his dream as well at that time. And we ended up being friends, which is the most important thing. And then we took different routes at a certain point. By chance, we stepped into each other in Berlin. I guess it was 2017. And Fabio told me with a lot of enthusiasm, look, I'm working on a new game, and this game is on Godot. What is Godot then? Godot is such an amazing thing, such an amazing movement. And for the first time, I was, wow, so I really want, if one day the door will open, to do something here. So that day came eventually, end of 2021. We decided to co-found W4 Games with an idea. Make up a company, successful, inclusive, global, but also a company inspired to multiplayer games. Why is that? Because we wanted to try to involve as much as possible a talent pool based globally without asking to come to office or move out of the family or the family affairs, and really work as it was a same team playing competitively online. This idea will become, in my opinion, the future of organizations, of liquid organizations. You can be anywhere, you can play for the same vision, and you can eventually find the way to go through. So my role with the company is leading the corporate affairs function. And the corporate affairs level, we tend to look at market information. So what I wanted to share today with you is really a snapshot about our behind-the-scene decision-making about this market. So the gaming market is sexy, which is the reason it's worth about 1/4 of the whole software market. That's why there is a lot of attention by investors, by publishers, and by different economic and finance operators. As you can see in the chart here, the compound annual growth rate, so the speed at which the market is growing, is quite fast. We're talking about 22% compounded in 4 years, which means adding another $50 billion to this market. And what is exactly hot? The 70% of the gaming revenues today comes from a section which is called games and services. So how much you make with your games and services you sell on top. And what's interesting about this, as you can see, is that the trend is up and to the right, so it's growing. It's worth $175 billion. And consoles are the second most important thing into this equation. So there is no better time, in a way, we thought, behind the scene, to do something for consoles and add value for this community for consoles. As you can see here, consoles nowadays are worth about $41 billion, and they are fast growing. And the interesting thing is that it is now the time to look at this kind of channel to reach out more audience and also more monetization. Just a quick zoom in about monetization. Where are console money coming from? You pay for the game, you pay for subscriptions, or there are some microtransactions and DLC. You will have the possibility, of course, to see it later on. The second thought, the second pill I would like to distill is about multiplayer. I've mentioned to you before the vision, right? Create a company like a multiplayer. But this has been the vision from day one. Multiplayer is not just because the word is interesting, but it's a very interesting space in the market, which is fast growing. It's basically, as you can see from the numbers, it moved from a little tiny slice in the cake to close, it will be close to 40% of value in this market. So Fabio will tell you more about our products, but certainly multiplayer is key and mandatory for what we want to do. Another reason why we exist, as Juan mentioned before, is we want to help this community to be endorsed by top companies. So developing product and services for the enterprise world means having more credibility out there, and it will generate, in our opinion, a snowball effect. Here you see some names that started to partner with us. Actually, we started partnering with them, or both, and we want to continue building on top of this community of enterprises that can support Godot in different ways. Last but not least, I was reading again this morning after many other reads. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, join forces, go together, because the community is much stronger than the single person, even if it's an enlightened person. So I really want to wrap up here, hand it over to Fabio, who will tell you more about W4 products, and invite you to get in touch in the other moments of this conference. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fabio Alessandrelli. You might know me as Fales. I'm a long-time contributor of Godot. As Nicola mentioned before, I started using Godot to make my own game. And somehow, like many other developers, I ended up making Godot in some way. So there was a very important experience for me. I learned a lot of things using Godot, and I learned a lot of things about making games. And my game was a multiplayer game, so I kind of know a lot of the problem that goes through, like a developer that won't make multiplayer games. And when we created W4 Games, we wanted to, again, try to solve the problem that people have when they use Godot or they use game engine. And so I'm here to talk about the products of W4 Games. I'm the CTO of W4 Games, so I'll be talking about our products that we are presenting. So those are the W4 builds, the W4 cloud, and the W4 consoles. They have been slightly mentioned already, but I want to give you an overview, and then for any more details, you probably can come to our booth to expand the conversation. So let's start with W4 Build, which we just announced. It's in early access. And again, as a developer of Godot, I build Godot so many times every day. And when I made my own game, I had my own patches because, again, it was very early days. And I know how cumbersome it is. Every time you make a change and you want to include it in your game, that means you have to rebuild all the templates for all the possible platforms. I was only going for Steam at the time, so it was Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it was already quite painful. You can do that. You can use your own machine. We have documentation for it, but we said, OK, maybe we can do something to make it easier, something that you can just go, like push to your branch, and then go on a website and automatically have the builds for everything. This could, in theory, be possible with other services, like GitHub Action, things like that, but the runner are very limited. You can't do proper release builds. A lot of the time, you need more memory. You need gigabytes and gigabytes of memory to make proper release on optimized builds. And we also wanted to do something that make it easier to make optimized builds where size matter, for example, for web builds and so on. So we launched this product in early access. So if you are interested, you can apply for it on the website. I'll give you more details later. The other product is, again, W4 Cloud. This is the product I really, really care about. As I said, my game was a multiplayer game. I was super happy when I managed to, play my first matches with friends. And then, my friends were like, oh, this is so cool, we can play, and so on. And then I'm like, OK, now I need to make a matchmaker. Now I need to have dedicated servers. Now I need to maintain a whole cloud infrastructure. And I'm alone. And how am I going to do that? So when we founded W4 Games, I was like, we can help there. There are some services, but everything is so complicated. There's DevOps, Docker images. I don't want to touch that. I mean, I learned how to do that, of course, but it's not something you want to do usually. You want to just make your game and have it running live, right? So this is what we aim for. A very simple, simplified infrastructure, something that you can, if you want to use dedicated game servers, you can just press a button, export from the editor, gets uploaded, and it's ready for your players to play. If you don't want dedicated servers, because you are still developing, we have a simplified WebRTC system that does peer-to-peer. So again, you integrate the SDK, it's 2 functions to call, and you get directly inside the match, and your players can play. You can test your game with friends. It needs to be simple. Again, user-friendly. You trying to not get in the way and leave you the time to make your game and not maintain some infrastructure on the internet. We launched this product already, so you can buy access. We also have an exclusive offer for the GodotCon attendees that you can basically get a developer environment for free. You can come at our booth and get the code to get and try it for free. It's a limited offer, so if you are interested, please come. It's subject to space on our clusters. And the other thing is, again, W4 consoles. We talked about it a bit. It's very important to have something that feels like something that is just one-click deploy, right? If you use Godot, you know that when you connect your Android device, you can just press a button and test on the device. And we wanted the same experience for consoles. And this is what we managed to do. And we have an amazing team of very talented people. We invested quite a lot of resources in this. This resulted in a lot of improvement for Godot, as Juan mentioned. It's multi-platform. Again, on the Switch, on the Xbox, and on the PlayStation 5. We launched this already. For the PlayStation 5, we have an early access. So if you are accredited developer, you can ask us for that. We already published, some developers already published the game using our console ports. We'll have a video about that in a minute. you will get full source of code access. So if there's something that you need to change, very importantly, you can do that. We, of course, want to support all the features that Godot has. So everything that Godot has on native platform, you will have on console. We also have a C# integration for the Switch and the Xbox. So you can leverage already your code, and you don't have to basically change your code to go on console. So yes, as I mentioned, we have already some customers that have been working with us to go on console. Some of them already released on consoles. Some are in the process of getting approved and going to the process. So those are some of the names. And as I mentioned, I have a small
Godot become a
video.
global-scale technology. Democratize game development thanks to a free and open-source game engine. And of course, a set of optimized services for all kinds of developers, from enterprises to indies, to support the growth of this community.
I'm a sole developer on the game The Garden Path that I've been working on in the Godot engine. And the Garden Path really started as a hobbyist project. I had plans for it back in 2017, but I really started making it after Godot 3.0 had come out to really get into the nitty-gritty and start building systems and planning out the game's functions and how it would play. There are a few reasons why I was particularly interested in Godot. It's all open source. You don't need any proprietary or licenses, proprietary software. That was really my goal when setting up to create the Garden Path. 6 years later now, the Garden Path is released. It's fully powered by Godot, and I'm really happy to be part of that scene and part of the engine's history, hopefully.
I switched to Godot in 2019 after evaluating a few different options. I was coming from a programming framework, and Godot immediately clicked. It was so easy to use, it was very slim and fast. Iteration speed is really the most important thing in making indie games, and a tool that allows you fast iteration, that's quick to use, that's easy to get into. That's just a great help.
Our latest game is Halls of Torment, which was also made in Godot. We saw one team using Godot for their game, and we were impressed by what they were able to achieve with it. We started using it for our own indie games, and we grew so comfortable with it, and we liked it so much that we decided to make our first commercial game with Godot.
Senem Games has been founded in 2018. We have been working on Hauma, our debut game, and it released last year in September. Godot was a godsend. It checked all the right boxes, it gave me all the right feelings, it's very indie friendly. It worked beautifully out of the box, and I did not look back. I love the Godot community, I love being a part of that. I love Godot.
We've been approached a lot by players of Halls of Torment and asked, hey, when will Halls of Torment be released on the Switch?
There is no better time than now to think about console porting. If you have a game in PC, for example, the console channel is the best monetization option you can think of. It is worth 24% of all the yearly games and services revenues.
We identified the Nintendo Switch as a really good candidate for another platform. We really wanted to use the new capabilities of Godot 4 because there were new ways underneath the hood to how it was loading, which helped the very large garden in the game stream in smoothly. But Godot, being free and open source software, it needs some help with the licensing. And that's where W4 came in, and we were able to get the game through lot check with Nintendo and out into the world on July 30th.
With the W4 consoles beta, what we were trying to do is get some real world projects. We brought in studios that had already shipped their games in other platforms and worked closely with them to provide assistance with systems and in testing and making sure that the game was running on the console correctly, that we fixed any bugs that needed fixing, we improved performance, and generally put the port through its paces.
Having an officially supported pathway for Godot games to consoles is incredibly exciting, and we're super excited to work with them ourselves in the years to come.
It kind of feels like an extended team. It's my first console port. So I'm happy for the help and support they're giving me.
Porting games to consoles is not an easy thing to do in any engine. Our goal is to provide a porting experience that is as accessible and as easy to use as we can make it, whether you have experience with console porting or not. What we're building at W4 Games and the consoles team is an export experience that is hopefully as straightforward and accessible as it is to export to Windows or Mac or iOS today for any game dev.
W4 Games is a very important entity for us, because not only for us but for all of Godot development, because they open the doors for smaller indies to get actually on those console platforms that were blocked off for them before.
In the future, we will continue working with Godot, and I think we are most excited about bringing games to consoles also. That's a very new thing we can do. It's great to have W4 around to push the ecosystem forward.